हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। भवानी शङ्करौ वन्दे श्रद्धाविश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धा स्वान्तस्तमीश्वरम्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। रामाय रामभद्राय रामचन्द्राय वेधसे रघुनाथाय नाथाय सीतायाः पतये नमः। बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वमरोगता अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम नमः शिवाय 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 ओम नमः शिवाय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम हरि ओम। So we are studying the 10th chapter of Gita. Here Bhagwan is revealing his vibhutis to Arjuna. So Bhagwan first revealed the most beautiful vibhuti, our own inner self. Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutashaya Stitaha. Bhagwan says, I am the Atma residing in the heart of all beings. So meditate on your own Atma as Ishvara. Thereafter Bhagwan also revealed some more vibhutis on which we can meditate. So among Aditya, Bhagwan says, I am Vishnu. Among all the luminaries, I am the sun. In this way, Bhagwan revealed many of his vibhutis. Among yajnas, I am Japa Yajna. Among all trees, I am Ashwatha. Among Devarshis, I am Narada. Among Gandharvas, I am Chitraratha. Among all Siddhas, I am Kapilo Munihi. I am the Uchchashrava horse among all horses. I am Airavat among all elephants. I am the king among all human beings. Ayodhanam aham vajram. And I am that Vajra which was made from the bones of Dadichi Rishi. Vajra, very, very powerful. You cannot penetrate, cannot destroy that Vajra. Therefore, even Hanumanji's body is considered as strong as Vajra, Vajrangi. That itself has become, in our local languages, Bajrangi. Vajrangi. Then Dhenu Nam Asmi Kamadhuk. Among all cows, I am that wish-fulfilling Kamadhenu. Prajanascha Asmi Kandarpaha. I am that Kamadeva. And Sarpanam Asmi Vasuki. And among all Sarpa, among all snakes, Bhagwan says, I am Vasuki, the king of all snake, who is a very great devotee of Lord Shiva and always remains in the neck, around the neck of Lord Shiva, Vasuki. Now, in the next verse, verse number 29, Bhagwan reveals some more of his vibhutis. Let us chant. Anantaschasmi naganam varuno yadasamaham pitrenam aryama chasmi yamas sanyamatamaham. Bhagwan says, among Nagas. Nagas are the snake having hoods. They have multiple hoods also. These are mentioned in our Puranas. So there is a story in the Purana of Kashyap Rishi marrying Kadru, and he gave birth to these Nagas, Anantanag, then Vasuki, Takshaka, different Nagas were born. So Ananta is a Naga having 1,000 hoods. And he is a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu resides on this Ananta Naga. He sleeps in Yoga Nidra on Ananta Naga. And Ananta is a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, and he is a great teacher also of the Supreme Reality. And it is considered that even Lakshmana was the avatar of Ananta Naga. So even now in our country there are those who are from the same lineage of this Naga. So Naga Lokas are there, who are from the lineage of these Nagas. Some of them are in human form also, but have come from that Naga Vamsha only. Just like we have the Surya Vamsha and the Chandra Vamsha, so there are those who are in the lineage of Nagas. So among all the Naga, Bhagavan says, I am Ananta. See, this Ananta Nag also is described in our Puranas as holding the whole Brahmanda on his head. See, generally we have this Naga with their hood pointing away from their body. But here, if you have seen the image of Bhagavan Vishnu lying on that Naga, the Naga is turning its hood within and looking at Bhagavan Vishnu. So that Naga also is like our mind, which has got so many hoods, our Antakarana, and it keeps on looking outside. It keeps on indulging in different types of pleasures in the various objects of this world. But when that mind turns its attention within, it sees the presence of Ishvara within, that Ishvara is lying in me only. In that mind itself, Ishvara exists. And when the mind turns its attention within and comprehends Ishvara in its own heart, the mind becomes absolutely steady, absolutely still. So much so that even the whole Brahmanda can be balanced on the head of this mind. It becomes absolutely steady. So Ananta, as a most beautiful, fascinating Naga, and Bhagwan says he is my Vibhuti. Anantaschasmi Naganam. Then Varuno Yadasam Aham. Then again there are these different devatas related to the waters. See, different types of water bodies are there, and different types of waters are there, and there are these different devatas related to these waters. And among all those devatas, the king of all those devata is Varuna. Abdevatanam Raja. He is the king of all the water devatas, called Varuna. So Bhagavan says, I am that Varuna Devata, who is the king of all the water devatas of all the waters. See, water is very important for our life living in this world. Though we have lots and lots of water on earth, but only a small percentage of that water can be drunk, is drinkable, potable. Lot of water is all salty, we can't drink. And same water gets circulated again and again and again through all the different types of living beings. So we have to take care of this water properly. Should not pollute water. Because if we pollute water, again it will come and harm us only. Our own body is made up of lot of percentage of water is there within us. And this water is also a devata, and whatever the way we interact with the water, that samskar also comes into that water. Therefore, in all our puja, all our ritual, water plays a very important role. If you go to any tirtha kshetras, the water in that tirtha kshetra is very important. Taking a dip, if there might be a river or a lake or a pond or a waterfall or ocean connected to that tirtha kshetra, and taking a dip and also drinking that water, considered very important. If you go to Rameshwaram, there are so many in the temple. There are so many wells are there, and very strange. In every well, the water is different. The colors of that water looks different. The taste of that water is different. The temperature of the water is different. When devotees go to the temple, they can take bath in all these waters of this well. So the water is very important, and the devata resides in that water, and all the waters is controlled by the main water devata king, that is Varuna. And Bhagavan says, I am Varuna. Varuno yadasam aham. So we should have proper respect for water. And even if we take water and invoke the presence of all the holy rivers, then it comes and we can drink that water. We can invoke the blessings in water and drink that water, or give it to someone who is not well, and it will have miraculous effect on that person. Water is very, very fascinating and important, and Bhagwan is the king of all the water devatas, Varuna. So Varuno yadasam aham. Then Pitrunam Aryama cha asmi, among all the ancestors. See, when our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents, when they die and go away, many of them, they go to what we call the Pitrulok. And they stay there for a long time. So there is a loka called Pitrulok beyond this the moon, other side of the moon. There is this loka called Pitrulok, and all the ancestors stay there. And during this Shraddha month, they come on earth also. They visit earth. Therefore, we perform the various types of. We perform Shraddha, honoring our ancestors. So among all the ancestors, the king of the ancestor is Aryama. So Bhagavan says, I am Aryama. Worship me as Aryama. In Aryama, you see my presence. Aryama, the Pitru, the king of all the Pitara, is my own Vibhuti. So Pitrunam Aryama cha asmi. I am Aryama. So honoring our ancestors is very important, because we get our body and we get all our samskars, many of our samskars from our ancestors. We carry their samskar in us. All of us, we have our lineage going back to some rishis, and so many forefathers in that lineage. All the all the beings who were there in that lineage, that samskars are there within us. See what we call nowadays the DNA and genome and all. It carries that samskar from the ancient past. It doesn't get destroyed. We may not be able to see, we may not be able to read them, but they carry the samskars from the past. Nowadays, actually, with all this modern technology, one can understand the DNA, and one can also understand our connection with different beings of this earth. Through this study, they can understand that we are connected to even some animals, to some birds in our ancient past. So though we get this body from our parents, but they got this body from their parents, and this samskar of our ancestors are there within us. So their blessings are very important for us, and we can get their blessings by remembering them with due respect and regard. Just remembering them and expressing our gratitude, we will get their blessings. Just as when our parents are present, we do namaskar to them and get their blessings, but even when they are not present in the physical form, they are always present. So with proper attitude, when we do namaskar to them and ask for any blessings, we will definitely receive them. See, this whole world, whole cosmos is very vast, but everything and everyone is interconnected. Just like nowadays we have this computer and our World Wide Web, www, everything is interconnected. Like you are sitting now listening to me, your mobile or your computer is connected to my mobile in a very strange and subtle way. So just as we understand this world of electronics, same is true in this entire cosmos. All of us are connected to everyone through as our own self, but also as that prana, as our mind, as the senses, as these devatas who are managing all this. We are all connected. We are not only connected to people who are alive, we are connected to people who are dead and gone. They might not be visible for us, but they are present. Nobody disappears. Everyone exists. Nobody dies. Everyone exists. Only the form changes. And we cannot see them if their forms have changed. We don't have the capacity, but they are present. See, when your own friends or relatives, when they travel and go to some other country or to some other place, we don't see them. Physically, we don't see them, but we know they are present. And we can interact with them through our mobile, through our other media. And we know that we are talking to them. We know that we are interacting with them. Though even in the mobile, when we see a picture, it is just an image created by all the electrons. The person himself is not there in the mobile. Like you are seeing me, listening to me, I am not in your mobile. If your mobile gets broken or something, it will not create any disturbance. It will not destroy me. I am not present there, but I am expressing from there. So all these beings are present in this whole cosmos. Therefore, we should continuously have proper reverence and respect for everyone, so even the forefathers. Even the tradition which they have given us, we should continue with them, so that the generation which will come in future, they will also get benefited. So ancestors are very important. So Bhagavan says, among all the ancestors, I am the king of the ancestors, Aryama. So Pitrunam Aryama Chasmi. Okay. Then Yamasayamatam Aham. Then Bhagavan says, I am Yama, Yamaraj, the Lord of death, the Devata of death. Yamaraj is considered very frightening. Yamaraj is a son of the sun, Surya, son of Surya Bhagwan, brother of Yamuna, Yamaraj. And he is the Devta he controls our life and death, Devta of death. So Yamasayamatam Aham. Here Bhagavan says he is the one who does Sayyam, controls all beings. See, among all those who control, the greatest controller is death itself. Yamraj is also called time, Kala. He is the greatest controller. Nobody can argue, nobody can do anything. If Yamraj says, okay, time for you to go, nobody can stop that person. If Yamraj says that abhi aapka time nahi aaya hai, then nobody can kill that person. Yamraj is the ultimate, the master. But he gives the result as per our karma. In Bhagavad it is said that even Yamraj, he doesn't touch the devotees of Bhagwan. He is not the ultimate giver of result. The ultimate giver of result is Ishvara only. And Ishvara says, okay, isko chhod do, so Yamraj also has to leave that person. Bhagwan is the master of even Yamaraj. Yama is depicted in our Shastra as a great teacher also. There is a beautiful Upanishad called Kathopanishad, in which Yama is shown there as a great teacher of that Brahma Vidya. He teaches this Brahma Vidya to Nachiketa. So Nachiketa approaches Yamaraj and he asks this question about the nature of this self. Anyatra dharmat, anyatra adharmat, anyatra kritat akritat, anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha, yo yat pashyasi tadvada. What is that which is different from dharma, dharma? What is that which is different from karma and akarma? What is that which is different from past and future? You tell me that. And Yamaraj reveals the knowledge of that Supreme Self. So Yamasayamatam Aham. It is also said in the Shastra that we should constantly keep our attention, should be aware that one day we have to leave this world. We should know that everyone who is born will die. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. So before we die, we have to fulfill our work here. We have to fulfill our whatever agenda. And the main agenda is to realize our own self, to develop that bhakti for Bhagwan. And for that we have to purify our mind, gain proper knowledge. So one should strive to walk this proper path, because when that death will come, nobody knows. So Yamraj is also called the Dharmaraj, the king of Dharma, because that alone determines our life. Dharma alone determines our life and our death. How long we will live in this world, and after death what will happen to us will be determined by our dharma, means whatever karma we have performed. So one should remember this, but it is not something very frightening, because even the Lord of Death is Vibhuti of Bhagwan. So one need not be afraid of life, afraid of death, because we are always in the presence of Bhagwan only. So yamas sanyamatam aham, among all those who control, Bhagwan says, I am Yamraj. Then further, Prahladaschasmi daityanam kalakalayatamaham mriganancha mrigendroham vainateyascha pakshinam. Bhagwan says that among all Daitya, see, just like Aditi, her sons were called Aditya, her sister Diti, her sons all became Daitya, demons like Asuras. There are also different types of beings. Just like we have the Devatas, then there are those Asuras and Daityas are there. They are also different beings, and more of Tamogun, Rajogun is there in them predominantly, and which expresses in their behavior. Many of them are quite violent, very egoistic, proud, attached to wealth and position, name, fame, power. These are all Daitya. So lot of Daityas are described in our scriptures who were there in our past. And one powerful Daitya was Hiranyakashipu. He was a powerful king, Hiranyakashipu. Actually, Hiranyakashipu and his brother Hiranyaksha, they were cursed, and they were actually originally the sevaks of Bhagwan Sri Vishnu, Jai and Vijay. But they disregarded a saint, therefore they were cursed, and they became Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Thereafter they took another birth and became Ravan and Kumbhakarna. Thereafter again they took birth and became Shishupal and Dantavakra. And Bhagwan took 4 avatars to destroy them and again release them from this birth and death, and again they became Bhagwan's sevaks. So Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. To kill that Hiranyaksha, Bhagwan took avatar as Varaha. And to kill this Hiranyakashipu, Bhagwan took avatar as Narasimha. So Hiranyakashipu was a powerful king of the Daityas, and he had a son, Prahlad. But Prahlad was by birth a great devotee of Bhagwan. See, when Prahlad was in his mother's womb, See, Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad, he was his father, and his Prahlad's mother was Kayadhu. So when Prahlad was in the womb of his mother Kayadhu, she went to Naradji's ashram. In fact, Naradji came and took her to his ashram. Hiranyakashipu had gone for tapas, so Naradji took Kayadhu, the mother of Prahlad, when Prahlad was in her womb, and she stayed there in the ashram, and Naradji taught her, and through her he taught Prahlad, who was in her womb. Naradji conveyed the beauty of Bhagwan and taught him that Bhagwan's bhakti. And when Prahlad was born, he was born with that samskar, and he was born as a great bhakta of Bhagwan. His father Hiranyakashipu wanted Prahlad to become a powerful daitya only like himself, having that philosophy of daitya, of power, of violence, of torturing people and all those things. But Prahlad had different samskar. He was sent to the ashram to study, but Prahlad only understood Bhagwan's bhakti. And he told his father that you should just love Bhagwan, that is the main thing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So his father got real angry. He said, what type of son I have? He doesn't follow my philosophy. He has got his own ideas. He doesn't know that I myself am God. The one who is powerful, one who has got the capacity, one who can do anything what he wants, is God. So I am God. There is no other God than me. But Prahlad said, no, there is that Supreme Mahavishnu who pervades everything, is present everywhere. So his father asked that, father tried to kill that Prahlad through various ways, but he could not kill him. Even he put him in fire, but he couldn't be burnt. So Prahlad said that Ishvara is there, present everywhere. So he asked him that, is he present in this pillar? Prahlad said, yes. So father kicked that pillar. It broke into two, and from that pillar came Bhagwan as Narsimha. Half man, half lion head. And Bhagwan caught hold of that Hiranyakashipu and killed him. Placed him on his lap and killed him. So this Prahlad, his story is there beautifully narrated in our Puranas, in Srimad Bhagavad Purana also. And Prahlad does beautiful stuti of Bhagwan, and even he gives lot of beautiful advice to his other friends. So one should read the life charitra of Prahlad, a great devotee, though born as a daitya. So it doesn't matter in which kula we are born. We carry our samskars from our past, but we also get samskar from our parents. So his mother had done satsang, so that samskar was there in Bhakta Prahlad, and it transformed him completely. So Bhagwan says, I am Prahlad. Prahladaschasmi daityanam, among all daitya. Okay. Then kalak kalayatam aham. Bhagavan says, I am Kala. Kala means time. Among what? Kalayatam. Kalayatam means Kalanam Gananam Kurvatam. Those who count. Those who do Ganana means count. See, just like in our country also in other countries and all, we once in I think 10 years we do the counting of all the population, Ganana, how many people are living in our country, the number is growing steadily. We might now cross even China in terms of population. So they do Ganana, or in so many places we keep counting. Even when election is there, they count the vote. And nowadays they keep counting the number of people who are infected by this corona. How many are there infected? How many got cured? How many are active? And all those things they keep counting. But who is the best, the topmost in terms of counting? Bhagavan says time. Time counts everything. Everything is noted by time. Every thought, every action we perform is recorded by time. See, the time is a very strange and a very fascinating expression of Ishvara. Just like space, this time is also expression of Ishvara. We cannot see space with our eyes. We cannot see time with our eyes. Space and time is understood with our mind. Seeing the objects of this world, we can understand space. And seeing the movement of objects in this world, we can understand time. Time is understood by the movement which happens in these objects of this world. So we have made units of time and we calculate time. So based on the movement of the earth, and as we see the sun rising and setting. So based on that we have made our own time. The 24 hours, we have divided the sunrise to sunrise as 24 hours. So we calculate our time in terms of days, weeks, months, years, centuries, and what you call yugas. Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga. But also, if you see the minimum, we have hours, we have minutes, we have seconds, we have fractions of seconds. See, in the field of science, they have really made understanding of this time and calculation of the time so precise. There are watches which are based on the atoms and all, which are so precise that even for millions of years they don't show any variation in time. See, generally we have time watches, if they are defective, so you see that it is going ahead or going behind, then we have to set it right. But there are watches made from atoms and all which are very precise, because to calculate certain things you need precise time. And the most fascinating thing in the field of science, that they talk about time in such a small degree that there is something called Planck time. This Planck time is 10 raised to minus 43 seconds. Means 1 second divided by 1 followed by 43 zeros. Means just you can't even imagine the tiny little time which they are talking, this theoretical time which they are talking about. So time is very, very fascinating and very strange. We experience time objectively, outwardly, differently, and subjectively we experience differently. Externally, depending on the moment and depending on the system which we have formed, we have fixed time. Suppose you tell that, okay, let us meet at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. in the evening, Indian Standard Time, at this particular place, then both the person reaches there at the same time. It is fixed. But subjectively we experience time differently, depending on our mood, depending on our thoughts, depending on the speed at which we are thinking, depending on what we are thinking, we experience time differently. When you are sitting and listening to pravachan, if you are enjoying the pravachan, the time moves very fast. It appears to move very fast. If you are feeling tired and bored and all, it appears to move very slow. So subjectively we experience time differently. There is a time which is divided into different units. For our own calculation, for our own interaction, we have divided time into units. But there is time which is beyond all units, beyond all measurements. So there are two types of this time. One time is Vishesha, particular time, divided into various units. But there is also time which is Nirvishesha, beyond all units. See, the Vishesh time we can understand only when we experience some movement. Based on this movement, we have calculated this time, seconds and minutes and all. Even in a good old days, they used to calculate based on the time it takes to wink, and nimisha. But even when there is no movement, still time, the very basis of time exists. Therefore here we will see later on, Bhagavan tells that I am not only the time which can be counted, but I am that time which is beyond all counting. See, for example, when we are awake, we can count time. Suppose you are told that you just sit here for half an hour, then you can just sit and keep note of that time. It can be calculated. But when you are in deep sleep, there is no basis on which you can calculate time. There is no experience of the world. There is no experience of the senses. There is no experience of the mind. So there is no way to count time. There is no awareness of anything. So, in deep sleep, time is there or time is not there? Time is there, but it is nirvishesh, it is unconditional time. It is the very nature expression of Ishvara. That Ishvara alone expresses as time which can be counted, and He alone is also beyond time, which cannot be counted, which cannot be divided, which is understood by Ishvara alone. So here Bhagavan is talking about that time which can be counted. So among all those who count, Bhagavan says, I am that time. And time keeps moving in one direction. Even in physics, they wonder why it is moving only in one direction, why not in the other direction? See, in space, you can move in any direction. You can be here, you can be there, you can be again here. You can go to and fro in space, but in time you cannot come back. You can only go ahead. You can't go back. You can't go back to your childhood. You can't go back to even yesterday. You can't even go back 1 minute ago. Time keeps moving. And keep noting down everything. Kala. It's most fascinating. And Ishvara, that supreme reality, is beyond this Kala. Means beyond all Kala which is confined, which is calculated. Therefore, when we realize our own self, we go beyond the bondage of time. We become free of the bondage of time. All our karmas and karma phala happen in time. They are all expressions happening in time. You perform an action in time now and you get result in future. But in that supreme reality, there is no present, there is no future, there is no past, there is no day, there is no night, there is no year, there are no yugas. It is pure presence. It is the very substratum of all time. Recognizing that, you become free, you become eternal, you become immortal. So this time is very fascinating, and Bhagavan says, worship me as time. Look at me as Kala. So Kala Kalayatam Aham. Then Mruganam cha Mrugendroham. Bhagavan says, among all animals, Bhagavan says, I am Mrugendra, I am the king of all animals. That is a lion or tiger. Simho Vyagrova. Lion or a tiger is considered as the king of all animals. Mrugendra. When you see a lion, tiger, they have their own majesty. When they are in the wild, not kept in cage, not in a circus, we destroy their majesty by keeping them in cage and training them in a circus and all. But if you just leave them alone in nature, they have their beauty, their majesty. And all animals in the forest, they respect a lion, a tiger. All other animals are busy eating and doing their own thing, but when they hear the presence of a tiger around, they just stop whatever they are doing and just become alert. Bas. And if the lion is there, everyone is all frightened. Lion is fearless. Lion or tiger, they are fearless, very powerful, very strong, brave. Therefore, we compare a brave person also to a lion among men. Like that we say. So, mruganam mrugendroham, Bhagavan says, among all the animals, worship me as a lion or a tiger, both. See, even our Durga Mata, her Vahan is a lion or a tiger. Sherawali Ma. Powerful, because she depicts power with all the weapons, and this lion depicts that power. So mruganam cha mrugendroham. And that lion will hunt only when it is hungry. Otherwise it just lies down, relaxes. When it's hungry, goes and hunts. So mruganancha mrugendroham. Then vainateyascha pakshinam, among all birds. Bhagavan says, among all birds I am Vainateya. Vainateya, the son of Vinata, that is Garud. Again, this even the birds are described as born from great rishis. So this I had told that this mother of Naga is Kadru, and she had a sister called Vinata, and the sons of Vinata were Aruna and Garuda. So Garud was the son of Vinata, and this Garud is a great devotee of Bhagavan Sri Vishnu and is a Vahan of Bhagavan Vishnu, and is the king of all the birds. So Garutman Vinata Sutaha Pakshinam Patatrinam. So among all the birds, Vinata's son Garuda is Bhagwan's Vibhuti. Eagle. Even now we see eagles, very fascinating. They have such mighty wings and they fly so high, and they have sharp eyesight. From a distance also, high up, they can see tiny little creature, and they swoop down, they fly with such speed, they dive down, pick up that creature, fly up. Sometimes they can pick up huge animals also. A goat also they can just hold and just take it up in the sky. Very powerful. So Bhagavan says, consider that powerful bird, eagle, as my Vibhuti. See, the beauty is that Bhagavan is presenting a different aspect of this world. And all this he is just naming the important, different aspect of this world, and he is present everywhere. Ishvara is present everywhere. but he is presenting, showing us the main vibhutis on which we can meditate. Take the vibhutis as a help, as a support to meditate on Ishvara. As I said, we have to always meditate on Ishvara. The vibhutis we can take as support to meditate on Ishvara. So beautiful vibhutis Bhagavan has mentioned, and many more are there, which we will see in our class day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. We will have 1 day holiday, chutti. I will give you some questions, few questions, which you can contemplate and reply. Even those who are not replying, you at least contemplate on these questions, think about them, because it's very helpful. Whatever we listen, unless we contemplate, it doesn't become one with our memory. It doesn't become strong memory. So there is always that fear of forgetting. So one should not forget. There is no harm in forgetting other things of this world, but you should not forget the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. It's very, very important and very, very helpful. And it is coming to us by Bhagwan's blessings only. Only by his blessings I am speaking, and by his blessings you are all listening. So be grateful to these blessings of Ishvara, and study and remember and apply whatever you have understood in your life. Okay? So more about this we will see in our class day after tomorrow. Till then, you take care of yourself, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana, and we shall meet again day after tomorrow. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram, 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 Jaya Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. Bole Siyavar Ramachandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.